The news hit the world like a cold shockwave. Early this morning, fans woke up to the heartbreaking announcement that reggae legend Jimmy Cliff had died at 81 years old. His wife, Latifah Chambers, posted a message no one ever wanted to read. Within minutes, Jamaica went silent. Radio stopped their usual chatter and began spinning Many Rivers Across, not as a song, but as a farewell. Across the world, from London to Lagos to Kingston, people paused because a giant had fallen. Jimmy Cliff wasn't just another artist. He was a symbol of resilience, a voice for the struggling, the hopeful, and the broken. And now he was gone. His wife's words cut deeply. To all his fans around the world, please know that your support was his strength throughout his whole career. Jimmy, my darling, may you rest in peace. But to understand the weight of this loss, you must understand the man himself. The child born into poverty in rural Jamaica, the dreamer who refused to quit, the actor who helped introduce reggae to America, and the global icon whose music healed millions. Jimmy Cliff's story begins far from the glamour and global stages where he would one day shine. Born James Chambers in 1944, he entered the world as the eighth of 9 children in the rural parish of St. James, Jamaica, a place marked by lush hills, hard living, and the quiet resilience of its people. His family lived in deep poverty, the kind that shaped not just a childhood but a spirit. Yet in the midst of struggle, something extraordinary was already stirring inside him. His earliest memories were filled with hymns, because long before the world heard his voice, the little boy from Summerton was already singing in his local church at just 6 years old. As a child, music wasn't simply entertainment. It was escape, comfort, and possibility. He would sit outside, listening to the rhythms of the village, letting them seep into his bones. But Jamaica in the 1950s offered very little to a poor boy with a dream. And by the time he turned 14, Cliff knew he needed to climb higher than the life he was born into. That was where he made the bold move to Kingston, a place buzzing with opportunity, harsh reality, and the pulse of an emerging music scene. The journey was more than physical. It was a leap of faith, a declaration that he believed he could become something more. In Kingston, he shed his birth name and chose the surname Cliff, a symbol of the heights he intended to reach. It wasn't an easy transition. The big city could be cold to young dreamers, and Cliff faced rejection, hunger, and the kind of loneliness only a teenager far from home can understand. But every setback only sharpened his determination. He sang in yards, studios, and anywhere a producer might hear him, refusing to let the weight of the city break him. And though nothing came quickly, his voice, sweet, powerful, and unlike anything else on the island, began to turn heads. By his late teens, the boy who once sang barefoot in a country church was finally beginning to find his place. Kingston started to open its doors, and Jimmy Cliff began recording early singles that would hint at the greatness ahead. His first true breakthrough came with Hurricane Hattie, a song he wrote and recorded on his own, which shot to the top of the Jamaican charts. It was a moment that announced not just the arrival of a new talent, but the emergence of a young man who refused to be defined by poverty or hardship. The world did not know it yet, but a legend had begun to rise. Jimmy Cliff's rise to musical prominence didn't happen overnight. It was carved out through hunger, persistence, and the unmistakable brilliance of a voice that refused to be ignored. After Hurricane Hattie pushed him into the Jamaican spotlight, Cliff found himself in the middle of a rapidly evolving music scene. Ska was bubbling, rocksteady was emerging, and reggae was beginning to take its earliest breaths. Cliff, young and fearless, threw himself into these shifting sounds, shaping them as much as they shaped him. Producers saw something rare in him, something beyond the vibrant rhythms. He had a way of delivering struggle with sweetness, pain with hope, and truth with a gentle, calming force. By the mid-1960s, his talent had grown too large for Jamaica alone. Island Records brought him to London, hoping to turn him into the next global sensation. But London was cold, not just in weather, but in reception. For a black Jamaican teenager, navigating a foreign industry that didn't yet understand his music was emotionally draining. Yet Cliff refused to lose himself. He kept writing, kept recording, and slowly, the world began to listen. When he released Wonderful World, Beautiful People in 1969, everything shifted. The song's message of unity and happiness cut through global tensions, and landed him on international charts. Suddenly, the young man from St. James was not just a Jamaican artist. He was a global voice for love, peace, and possibility. But Cliff wasn't interested in staying safe within feel-good anthems. He also wrote with fire. Vietnam, a politically charged ballad about a soldier who never made it back home, stunned listeners around the world. Bob Dylan himself called it the greatest protest song he had ever heard, a rare and profound compliment. The song captured Cliff's duality. He was both a healer and a truth-teller, able to comfort listeners even while confronting the harsh realities of the world. Each new release added a layer to his reputation, proving he wasn't just a singer with a beautiful voice. He was a storyteller, a witness, and a messenger. Still, his biggest breakthrough was waiting just around the corner. The 1972 film The Harder They Come would introduce reggae to mainstream America and position Jimmy Cliff as the face of an entire musical movement. But before that global explosion, Cliff had already laid the foundation. Song by song, stage by stage, heartbreak by heartbreak, his rise was not sudden or simple. It was a slow, steady journey of a man whose voice carried the weight of his past and the promise of his future. By the early 1970s, the world had finally begun to realize what Jamaica had known for years. Jimmy Cliff was destined to become one of reggae's most important icons. The world would meet Jimmy Cliff in a way it never expected, through the silver screen. In 1972, Cliff was cast in the film The Harder They Come, a gritty crime drama that told the story of Ivan Martin, a young man trying to break into Jamaica's corrupt music industry. It wasn't just a film, it was a revolution in the making. The story mirrored Cliff's own struggles, and through his performance, he became the embodiment of the Jamaican dream. But The Harder They Come was more than just a film. It was a gateway that introduced reggae to the global stage. Cliff's performance, raw and electric, made people see Jamaica not just for its beaches or its poverty, but for its music, its soul, and its heart. The film soundtrack, featuring Cliff's own music, played an instrumental role in the worldwide acceptance of reggae. Songs like You Can Get It If You Really Want became anthems of hope, determination, and resilience, resonating with audiences from Kingston to New York City. But it wasn't just the music that spoke to the world, it was the story. Cliff, a man who had once struggled to find his place, was now telling the world about a Jamaica they'd never seen, about a music that could unite and heal. The film cemented his status as not just a musician, but a global voice for the underdog, the dreamer, and the rebel. Soon, Jimmy Cliff's music and message were echoing through the world. And with every tour, with every album, he continued to break down barriers. His music wasn't just the Caribbean anymore, it had become universal. He performed in places he never dreamed of, from Europe to the United States, becoming one of the most recognized faces of reggae. And yet, even as his fame grew, Cliff remained grounded in the struggles that shaped his art. He used his platform to speak out on issues of social justice, politics, and the power of music to change lives. But even with his growing influence, he never lost sight of his roots. His music was always a bridge between his past in the streets of Kingston and his present on the world stage. As the 1970s gave way to the 1980s, Jimmy Cliff's reach continued to grow. He worked with the Rolling Stones, appeared on major soundtracks, and saw his music featured in iconic films like Cool Runnings in 1993. With his cover of I Can See Clearly Now, giving a fresh twist to his legacy, Cliff wasn't just a star in reggae anymore. He had become an international ambassador for the genre. From being a local hero in Jamaica to performing at major festivals like Glastonbury and Coachella, Jimmy Cliff's influence stretched far beyond his own expectations. He had brought reggae to the world, and now, the world had embraced him in return. As the years passed, Jimmy Cliff's presence in the music world only grew stronger. Even as reggae evolved and new voices emerged, Cliff continued to be a guiding light, showing that passion, authenticity, and soul never age. The 1980s saw him collaborate with some of the biggest names in rock, including a notable partnership with the Rolling Stones on their Dirty Work album. These collaborations weren't just about cross-genre experimentation. They were about Cliff's ever-expanding reach and his ability to connect people through the universal language of music. His sound had become timeless, able to transcend generations and genres. yet still rooted in the message of hope and struggle that defined him from the very beginning. Though Cliff had achieved the heights of international fame, it was in the 1990s that he reminded the world of his relevance once again. In 1993, he lent his voice to the soundtrack of Cool Runnings with his rendition of I Can See Clearly Now, which quickly became a chart-topping hit. It was a moment of both nostalgia and fresh energy, bridging the gap between his earlier successes and a new, younger generation of fans who were just discovering the magic of his voice. As he performed at global festivals like Coachella in 2010, Cliff proved that, even in his later years, he could still captivate the audience with the same electric energy that made him a star decades earlier. But for all the acclaim and accolades he earned, including his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2010, Cliff's true legacy lay in his connection to people. To those who grew up with his music, he was more than an icon. He was a lifeline, a teacher, and a friend. He received countless messages from fans who said his songs changed their lives, like the time a listener told him that "You Can Get It If You Really Want" had inspired them to return to school and become a teacher. For Cliff, it was these moments, these quiet exchanges with fans, that mattered most. They proved that his music was more than just entertainment. It was a force for change, a vehicle for transformation. When he was awarded Jamaica's prestigious Order of Merit in 2003, it was a reflection of his profound influence not just as a musician, but as a cultural ambassador. His contributions to reggae were recognized worldwide, and yet Cliff always remained humble, constantly grounded in the music that had carried him from the poverty-stricken hills of St. James to the biggest stages in the world. His career spanned over 5 decades, and in every performance, in every album, Jimmy Cliff left a piece of his soul for the world to hear. His music will forever be a reminder that, no matter the odds, the power of hope, love, and resilience is always worth fighting for. Behind the global icon that was Jimmy Cliff was a deeply rooted family man, someone whose success was as much about the love and support of those closest to him as it was about his own talent. He shared his life with his wife, Latifah Chambers, who stood by him through decades of triumphs, challenges, and the ups and downs of life in the limelight. Together, they had 2 children, a son, Aiken, and a daughter, Lilty, who became his greatest pride and joy. While his career took him across the globe, it was always clear that family was at the heart of Jimmy's world. For him, their love and support were the quiet pillars that kept him grounded, even as his fame soared higher. Though much of his public life was consumed by his musical career, Jimmy Cliff always made time for his family, showing a side of him that the world rarely saw. In private moments, he was a father who celebrated the milestones of his children, a husband who valued the small joys of life away from the stage. Latifah's heartfelt tribute upon his death was a testament to the closeness they shared. In her message, she wrote, "Jimmy, my darling, may you rest in peace. I will follow your wishes." It was a simple yet profound statement, one that revealed the deep bond they had formed over the years, built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. Despite his immense fame, Jimmy's relationship with his family remained personal and sincere. He often spoke about the impact of his music, not just on his fans, but on his own children. Jimmy was particularly proud of the way his music had shaped their lives, with stories of fans telling him how his songs had inspired them to overcome adversity. It was these stories that resonated most with him, whether it was teaching his children about resilience or hearing them speak of the way his music had touched others. Jimmy saw his legacy as something that would continue to grow within his family. The values of love, strength, and perseverance that defined his career were values he passed down to his children. In his final years, as his health began to decline, Jimmy Cliff remained at peace with his legacy, surrounded by those he loved most. His family was by his side as he faced his health struggles, and his wife's announcement of his death, while filled with grief, also expressed gratitude for the years of shared love and memories. Jimmy had always lived by a code of hope and love, and those same principles shone through in his relationship with his family. His death may have marked the end of an era, but for his loved ones, the music, the lessons, and the love would live on forever. On the 24th of November, 2025, the world lost one of its brightest stars. Jimmy Cliff, the reggae legend who had inspired millions with his music, passed away at the age of 81. His death came after a sudden seizure, followed by pneumonia, a combination that took him from us far too soon. While the news was a profound shock to his fans, his family's announcement of his passing was filled with both sadness and gratitude. In a heartfelt tribute, his wife, Latifah Chambers, shared with the world the man he had been, a loving husband, a devoted father, and a true friend to those who knew him. For them, the pain of losing him was softened only by the knowledge of the incredible impact he had on the world. Despite the sadness surrounding his death, there was also a sense of peace. Jimmy had lived a life full of triumphs and challenges, of music that spoke to generations, and of a career that spanned over half a century. He had fought hard for his place in the world, and in the process, he had given everything, his voice, his heart, his soul, to the music that defined him. His final years were not marked by fame or headlines, but by quiet moments with his family, who had stood by him to the highs and lows of his extraordinary journey. His legacy, cemented in songs like "You Can Get It If You Really Want" and "Many Rivers to Cross," would live on long after his passing. Though his death was unexpected, it came after years of reflecting on a career that had brought him more than just fame. It had brought him a lasting connection with people from all walks of life. Fans across the world remembered him not just as a superstar, but as a man whose music inspired change, hope, and resilience. When Latifah spoke of his passing, she was not only sharing the sorrow of losing her husband, but also honoring the immense legacy he had built. "Jimmy, my darling, may you rest in peace," she said, her words capturing the grief of a family who lost not just an icon, but a beloved partner, father, and friend. At 81, Jimmy Cliff had lived a long and fruitful life, full of achievements that would be remembered for generations. His passing may have marked the end of an era in reggae music, but his songs, his message, and the spirit of perseverance that he embodied would continue to resonate. The world may never see another like him, an artist who could transform personal pain into music that would heal millions. His death is a loss not just to his family, but to the global community of fans who held his music close to their hearts. In the end, the legacy of Jimmy Cliff will not be measured by the years he lived, but by the songs he left behind.